If it's a Tuesday or Thursday at 3 p.m., you know what that means. Time for a DraftKings best ball draft here in the DFS-friendly world of Stochastic, where people are peeling off big wins all the time in MLB and PGA. I'm sure NASCAR, MMA as well. But here in the world of NFL, we've only got about 40 days left, a little bit more than that until the regular season starts. It's time to get our entries in DraftKings Million Maker Tournament, where it is $2 million to first place, $15 million overall in the prize pool. And of course, as always, I'm already in a draft room here, seeing what we could do from the 2-hole today. They say it's the Influencer 101. I'll say the real influence at 102 here, a spot where we're going to take not likely Jamar Chase, but can take Saquon Barkley, can take Justin Jefferson, can take Bijan Robinson, our top ADP plays. And of course, I always like to lead off these videos. I want to give you guys 3 rules of thumb if you are new to the world of best ball, things you should be keeping an eye on, similar to your projections, your ownership projections, things that Stochastic makes it so easy to do for you. Of course, the Sims tools as well. Best ball has similar principles here to build yourself the best line as possible. Number 1 is being aware of the average draft position. You see it on the screen here. No matter what best ball platform you're playing on, Jamar Chase goes to the 101. You don't want to reach for a guy normally going in the 3rd round, take him at the 101. That's bad drafting. It's not a smart move. It's like leaving $5,000 of salary on the table, and not in a showdown slate either, and like kind of a main slate situation where you don't want to do that. So being mindful of ADP, absorbing the value if you can, and kind of using it as a projection / ownership projection that tells you that this guy's going to be 8% owned, and here's where he normally goes. Number 2, stacking and correlation, things we're used to in the world of NFL DFS. You want to put your QBs with wide receivers, tight ends, even running backs. And here we're on the clock. I'll give you guys roll 3 in a moment here. Saquon Barkley, I'm feeling pretty good about my exposure. Actually, was looking at my DraftKings and Underdog and Drafters exposure, so my exposure across everything in best ball. Feeling okay about my Saquon. Do want to get more Justin Jefferson, so I am going to go and strike with him here. I've been happy to take Saquon at the 102. Do think, based on how he played last year, taking advantage of every opportunity that Eagles' great offensive line did, created the most yards for contact in football. He took everything they gave him and then some. So happy to get Saquon normally, but I want to get some more Jefferson going, and that's going to be the case for me today here. Rule number 3, of course, that we always try to talk about here when leading off these best ball videos, your expected value is realized in week 17. So we talked about stacking. It's a really important one that includes week 17 game stacking as well, trying to capture those outlier game environments with potentially 50-plus points, 60-plus points. Some weeks, even 70-plus points teams are combining for in week 17. If you can do that with the QB stacked up with some receivers, an RB, a tight end, some bringbacks from the week 17 opponent. In a case like the Rams playing the Falcons, that's a game that I like a lot. But other ones too, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Arizona, kind of a common stack to hit. The point being is your expected value is realized in week 17. So people really harp on advance rate. And generally, you're expected to advance about 16% of the teams you put in because in pretty much every site out there, 2 out of 12 teams are advancing in the initial pods. So that ends up being about 16% and change. For you guys out there, you could have your advance rate be higher. You could have your advance rate be lower. The main thing is that you want to get paid out in week 17. That's building teams that are mindful of, again, that correlation, having enough wide receiver firepower in particular. That's something that matters a lot for that week 17 upside. Stacking your teams more so, perhaps with younger guys, the guys you expect to break out later in the year, can be a part of that as well. But really just remembering the fact that DraftKings pays at that $2 million in week 17. They only give you basically your entry fee back for advancing in week 15. And that's not slight on DraftKings. That's just what the reality is of best ball. So your big payout comes if you finish up top in some of those major tournaments, and that's really what you're looking for overall. We got a little bit of a ways to pick here, picking at the 102 spot. Big news items going on right now. Justin Fields had to put the brief fear of God in everybody out there, myself included. This guy's a little bit above the field on him and regularly would like to get to more if I can. Again, if I'm getting 2x the field, the Fields expected ownership for every player gets drafted in pretty much every draft to be about 8% and change. If you want to get more than the field, getting 10%, fine. 16%, kind of a meaningful stand to get what 2x Fields ownership is going to be. Would love to get to that mark with Justin Fields, and it'll be easier to do it seems, as he dislocated his toe today. So initially, people were concerned, could be an Achilles. People were saying, oh, he went down non-contact. In fact, he went down because an offensive lineman stepped on his foot. He dislocated not his big toe either, one of his lesser toes. Your big toes are great toes. So one of his not so great toes is the one that got dislocated. He should be fine to go, but definitely one of those things that happens in training camp. It happens every year. Guys get scares. Sometimes as well, it happens where reports come out, Justin Fields is on the cart, and being on the cart in preseason doesn't mean the same thing as it does in the regular season, because some of these facilities, the field's actually really far from the medical facility, so you're not going to make a guy on an injured foot walk over that. That's sort of the way it looks out. Justin Fields also had gotten out of the cart, was walking around, I guess, once he got to the medical area. But test came back, so he's day-to-day right now, but that's the full gamut of emotions. You get the full gamut as well of, I'm sure, some best ball drafts went on where Justin Fields went 10 spots later, 20 spots later. It's the nature of how people overreact to injuries, even though we are again playing for week 17. So it all kind of goes hand in hand here in the Justin Fields news today. It would be one of your best examples of how people do tend to react and overreact very quickly to a guy being hurt. But let's see what we got going on here. 2 picks coming up for me. Bucky Irving, a guy I like a lot, but I'm sure he will go the pick before this one because that's the nature of best ball. No, he doesn't. Okay. So you've got Jefferson. I mean, in this draft right now, Jefferson's certainly one of my favorite receivers in the league, even though I have been a little bit lower in exposure than I would like to be. Bucky Irving, one of the guys I got the most correct last year, felt like the industry was kind of playing down his accomplishments at Oregon, where he fit a lot of the criteria I look for in rookies. High efficiency player, high EPA per touch player, stats that I look at from Sports Info Solutions. Great data site out there that I have access to from my Football Outsiders days. Garrett Wilson, another guy I like, and I do think normally on DraftKings would be a sweat to get Justin Fields back. I would think with a little toe injury, it might be easier to get him back. So I'm going to go for Garrett Wilson here. Not the biggest Josh Jacobs believer. In fact, I am a much bigger Marshawn Lloyd believer, which cost me an incredible amount of money last year, but we're going back to the well this year. He's running as the RB2, has had some explosive plays already in training camp. So happy to do that. Not take Josh Jacobs, really the main point here. Jacobs certainly been a good volume back, but underlying metrics to me haven't been wowing since he had that really great year for Vegas a little while ago. Josh Jacobs last year, and I had to restart my computer today. The fan was running so hot. Give me one of those brief little, put the fear of God in me that I was going to have to buy a new MacBook. But Josh Jacobs here, searching by values instead of formula in Excel. Last year, Jacobs negative 0.04 EPA per rush, 0.02 EPA per pass, which are fine metrics for a bell cow back, a guy getting 20 plus touches a game or 20 plus intended touches a game between his targets and actual rushing opportunities. He was actually better as a runner than I would have thought last year. 20% avoided tackle rate. Wasn't efficient necessarily, but did force some missed tackles, which is really the one thing an RB can control. So that's certainly there. Jacobs as well, 3.5 red zone rushes a game, 0.1 red zone targets a game. It's not super great. But the red zone opportunity is there. Anytime it's over 3, it stands out to me. If it's over 5 between targets and rushing opportunities inside the 20, that's where I think you really have your guys at the biggest upside historically. Your McCaffrey types in recent years, or Kyren Williams types, guys who dominate that red zone role. Josh Jacobs not far off of that. I might be harder on Josh Jacobs than he deserves, but in my brain, it's because I do like Marshawn Lloyd so much and kind of expect him, not this year necessarily, but I think in the future, to be your lead back for Green Bay. He was a guy, I'm not biased because he went to my college, I swear, but it's more because he's an efficient player, guy that misses a lot of tackles in college, great athletic testing as well when he was coming out, good size to him too. Marshawn Lloyd, I'm a big believer on, but shouldn't stop me from taking Josh Jacobs, and frankly, I should probably get some more Jacobs down the home stretch. He's going to start going around pick 30 or so. Another big riser in most rooms, and appreciate the chats as well. We got our guy Chunk here. Glad to see him. Braden couldn't get in the room, but locking in better EV, listening to your advice while drafting, but not drafting with you. Thank you, Braden. I appreciate that. Hi, Brown Eyes. I thank you. That's flirty. Our guy, go F yourself, but I appreciate him a bunch, despite the troll name. Guy actually like a lot having a chat, so kudos to go F yourself. So funny things you have to say as a streamer here. Marion Hampton, a guy we should talk about a little bit as well. So Najee Harris, reports are floating around out there the last few weeks. We've actually talked about it on stream that apparently he sustained some kind of eye injury over the 4th of July. The reports range from him literally losing his eye and having a glass eye now to him being basically having kind of a corneal abrasion, which sucks worse than you realize. I actually tore my cornea once playing a game called Slap Cup at a bar after my adult kickball league. Really, the proud injuries we have as adults. Some guy had basically caught my cornea with his pinky, made a little cut, and it had to get it was an awful process where it took forever to heal. Basically they put like dye on my eye. You could see when they put it under light, like where the hole was. And it heals on its own basically. But that was not a firework. That was somebody's little pinky thumbnail, maybe his coke nail. I don't know. He was a finance guy. Boy, Jaden Daniels going here. Point being though, Marion Hampton looks a lot better now. So that's something for sure to keep in mind. We'll talk more about it in a moment. So we have no Cincinnati correlation here. We're not going to go that way. We do have some Minnesota stuff. And again, week 17 matchups, an important part of what we're trying to do to spike upside. And we got Jameson Williams here. So I'm going to go Jameson Williams for this first pick here. Minnesota, Detroit, week 17 game. Certainly two teams defensively should be better this year. Detroit having some positive camp reports as well for their secondary. Been really shutting down starting receivers and the limited sample size of camp we've had so far. And Minnesota too, another team Athletic reports today. I was reading the constant flow of information. Apparently, the Brian Flores defense looking pretty good in camp, even though we've seen a few highlights from JJ McCarthy. Lot of wide receivers here. One RB, though, that seems to be coming up. Really good camp reports so far. Really, the entire hire of Clint Kubiak for this team was basically trying to get him to be really a star player's hope for Kenneth Walker. He's a player on other sites out there. Underdog, you're a big competitor to DraftKings in terms of sites with the biggest prizes that do a slightly different thing. Kenneth Walker regularly going in the 40s there. To get Kenneth Walker here right at pick 50, I think feels pretty good. So 2 RBs, 3 wide receivers to start. No elite QB. If Jaden Daniels would come back, I would love to hit that. Pause. But I would love to have picked him up. Instead, we'll go with a Bucky Irving, Kenneth Walker start. Young, explosive, high avoided tackle rate backfield like these guys. Got Jefferson, Wilson, Jamison Williams, a Minnesota-Detroit stack. I like the way this is shaping up so far. We'll see how we can keep going as we go here. But Omarion Hampton at this point, again, talking about news, talking about how this stuff happens. I wasn't a guy going out of my way to get Omarion Hampton. Felt like he was kind of overpriced for the situation. With Najee Harris coming in, not a great contract for him, but definitely the kind of back that coaches trust at the goal line. Najee too, frankly, for what Najee is as a player and how he gets memed to death for being awful. He wasn't terrible last year. His numbers actually kind of look not dissimilar from Josh Jacobs. Negative 0.08 EPA per rush, positive 0.03 EPA per pass. 18 and 10 touches a game, 18.1 if you want to be accurate to the decimal point. 21.2% avoided tackle rate, which again, for Najee Harris, a guy who's perceived to have no juice, it's a pretty good number. Anything above 15 is a guy that's pretty good. Anything above 20, 25, that's where you really get into the hallowed halls of certain guys like Kenneth Walker, really elusive backs. But really for Najee Harris and how he's treated, he's pretty good. He also had a 28% target per out run, which, again, for a guy who's not really lauded for his pass catching ability, it's a well-rounded back. He also got 3 red zone opportunities per game in the run game, 0.2 red zone targets a game. That's good red zone work, too. Doesn't mean that Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman are going to use them the same, but he was a legit threat for Omarion Hampton's work. Now for Hampton, he's a guy that was a bell cow at UNC, passes all the criteria that I would have overall. I don't think this is going to see if it messes up my screen share. No, screen's okay. I look at my college stats over here and sometimes want to make the point. Omarion Hampton in college at UNC last year, 27 opportunities a game. So that's rushes and touches per game. 0.1 EPA per target. So he stayed efficient despite getting a ton of volume. That's the main thing that I'm looking at when I'm trying to parse out these numbers. 26% avoided tackle rate. Pretty good for a big-bodied guy. Where he really excelled to me, though, was in the pass game. Had a 0.36 EPA per target in the pass game, or running 16 routes per game, which is third most out of all the rookies drafted in this class behind guys like LaQuint Allen. Woody Marks ran a little bit more, but those guys, frankly, not the tier of prospect that Omarion Hampton is with the draft capital he got. I'm a big fan of Omarion Hampton, and now that it's kind of a situation where he's going to be in there, he's going to be getting a certain amount of work. I think it's wheels up in terms of drafting him here. I marked him up in my rankings, which actually should probably pull up on screen here so you guys can see. They are part of my OddsShopper Tails package. Really did a big update for DraftKings, for drafters, for Underdog as well. So my rankings now work everywhere, which took me a while to figure out, unfortunately. Here, I'll screen share this. Why not? I'm selling my Tails package. I think I'm allowed. All right, where's this tab? Come here, tab. Come here, tab. Go over here, tab. No, it won't do it. Come here, tabby. It is so hard to move a Chrome tab where you want it to be, guys. I'm trying my best to do it for you. Here we go. All right, there we go. Now you can see my rankings on screen, which you can get again on OddsShopper right now. Subscribe to my sales package. I believe it's linked in the description. Nothing else, though. Omarion Hampton has been a guy I moved up pretty substantially in my rankings here. And again, you can go through, see them all. Readable on mobile as well. I'm not really trying to shill that much, but check them out if you want to get some insight on things if you're joining the NFL season now. Hampton, I bumped up here to RB14 overall. Have him ahead of ADP. Moved him up a good amount of spots, further than ADP, about 7.5 spots higher than the market ones. For me, basically, with how it looks for Hampton right now, he's a guy that fits all the criteria of what I'm looking for. And now we also have a situation where Najee Harris is functionally iced. I think that's a spot for me where it's time to grab as much Hampton as you can relatively. And for me, that means getting to 10 to 16%, certainly not going crazy. But I am a big fan now that we know there's some clarity there. Interesting spot here. We have a little bit of a dip for Chris Olave, but nothing I have to absolutely take here. We did start RB a little bit lighter here. No top first round RB. Caleb Johnson would be a nice pick, the Pittsburgh rookie. Aaron Jones would correlate for us. But I'm going to go Olave here. I think he had some wide receiver firepower, and this will keep me from taking Chris Godwin, another guy who's currently a bit of a falling knife in ADP. People don't want to draft him because of the ankle issues that he's putting across right now. But basically for Godwin, he's starting the season or the training camp on the PUP list. There was a borderline expectation by how the coach is shocked about it, so nothing too surprising. But people are freaking out. Came out that he also had an ankle surgery in the spring. So Godwin, a guy I'm still taking the dip on, but I don't want to take him in every single team I'm drafting right now. Could increase my Minnesota bet, go reach for Jordan Addison. But I think I'm going to go Caleb Johnson here. I take a lot of Jalen Warren. Think the fact that he is a PPR back on DraftKings, certainly a positive thing. But that said, Caleb Johnson, workhorse kind of back. Probably Najee Harris with more juice, / at least a similar amount of juice. That's what Najee had when playing fairly well last year. So Caleb Johnson being my RB3 here when I have 4 receivers. I think feels pretty good. So my team so far, let me give it a read, and then we'll look at the draft board, and I'll line it up better for you guys. We got Bucky Irving, Kenneth Walker as our RB start. Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Chris Olave at pick 70 just felt a little bit too good. Caleb Johnson as well, getting him when I thought, frankly, he'd go around the turn, I think is where I'm at right now. So pretty balanced build so far, and hopefully we'll stick the landing with our receivers, or with our QBs rather, because we are now in the QB blood frenzy here. Bo Nix, a guy who I've taken on DraftKings because he was free at pick 110, goes to pick 76 in this room, and that is not normally what I would want to do, but this guy couldn't resist taking Bo Nix when he only has 2 receivers. That's not a great click. Hopefully that guy timed out, and that's why, but whatever. I've said it a million times here, not to be disparaging to anybody who's playing best ball, because there's a lot of new people that come in, don't know what they're doing, and don't necessarily spend the time that I think you should to understand what you're doing before you start gambling your money away. But in general here, on DraftKings, a lot of panic sometimes and amidst players. And the result that I would guess based on what I see on DraftKings over and over again is you probably have about 3 out of every 12 teams here in the room you're drafting with, especially at this point of July and August, they're just going to be kind of dead money teams. Teams that are not drafting with properly balanced draft capital, things like that. And again, it's one of those spots where, like, it's not a knock against the people really, but you see teams that you've been playing best ball maxing it out for, as I have, this is my 4th year maxing out. I put in some entries for when Liam Murphy, a good guy out there, Chesley, me follow him on Twitter. The first year when he won Best Ball Mania on Underdog, I think I was putting in only partial entries, got my ass kicked, and kind of went back to the well, rededicated myself to learning best ball better, in particular following the advice of my pal Pete Overzet and some of the guys in his universe that have also won BBM, like Pat Crane. That was sort of what I had to do for myself, and I think for a lot of people, maybe they're not on the right part of the Dunning-Kruger curve yet with how they draft. But really the net for you guys out there is that, like, if you're drafting teams, especially if you're 150 maxing DraftKings, taking advantage of the free entries they give you along the way, some of the bonuses they have too, including $300 on rakeback if you max out the tournament with the 150 max you have on here. You're going to end up building teams that are pretty good and benefit from these guys just maybe not being as sharp, not knowing what they're doing, not paying attention. Who knows? But happens at every draft room. And really the biggest one is not drafting enough receivers. That's always a thing. Last year, some teams kind of got lucky, I would say, in terms of the fact that they hit really hard on the Saquon Barkley part of things. Sometimes the Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry part, 2 players who were not so popular with the best ball cabal, some people call it. People have been playing best ball for years and kind of know structure better, tend to take more wide receivers, things like that. And a lot of those people had like really terrible receivers, like Quentin Johnston, wide receiver 1. And it kind of worked out enough because wide receivers overall were not that good for the first part of last year. Then when it hit the playoffs, running against teams that also might have a Saquon, might have a Derrick Henry, might have another RB popping up like a Chase Brown, a Bucky Irving, a Tyjae Spears, another guy projected really well in the playoff weeks, kind of benefiting from the chaos of the season last year with Tony Pollard going down and having a great red zone role. Last year, what happened is a lot of people had shitty receiver rooms going in, and even though they had done so well all year, had good points, advanced at a high rate because they had those necessary RBs that prop things up, the receiver rooms weren't ready for the war of playoffs, and that's why, in general, the rule of thumb is you want to get 5 receivers to pick 100. For me, pick 125, at least getting that 5th guy in. The Christian Kirk, Marvin Mims tier, I think is important. But we have right now 4 receivers, 3 RBs. Justin Fields, I could maybe push around a little bit. Decent value on Pearsall and Matthew Golden, but I am just going to take Fields here. Feel like just getting him at pick 95 is enough of a blessing. I've been getting sniped on Fields left and right on Garrett Wilson teams so far. So I'm happy to get Justin Fields here, absorb the quote unquote risk with the toe injury, even though again, he's day to day. It doesn't matter right now for us. Doesn't matter right now for week 1, let alone for week 17. right, so 1-3-4 build right now. Matthew Golden hanging around. No other obvious correlation I think I need to go up and get at this stage, though Jared Goff is close to it. Not crazy about Matthew Golden, and I think I'd like to just get my stack, but I am going to go Golden here. I'm really hoping that pushing Jared Goff and JJ McCarthy and trying to get those guys at pick 119 is not going to be my undoing here. Was thinking about taking Jared Goff because really JJ McCarthy on DraftKings, people are like really excited to draft him, even though realistically you want to take him most ideally with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Doesn't happen all the time though. People take JJ McCarthy naked, which is baffling. He's not a runner. You don't really want to do that with a QB, not stacking him up at all. But that said, I think there's nice value on Golden here, getting him at pick 98. So happy to do that. I think actually, frankly, for me, Matthew Golden should be ranked here. Jaden Reed should also probably be ranked here with the fact that he is basically not an every down receiver. He's only going to be out there for Green Bay when there's slot snaps to go around. But Golden, I think this year, assuming that Christian Watson doesn't make a miracle ACL recovery like Stephon Diggs seemingly is making, Matthew Golden's going to take all those Christian Watson routes right away, would be my guess. Has some more upside, hopefully. Wasn't a great target earner at Texas, even though people will be blinded by the fact Matthew Golden went nuts with catching passes in the college football playoff. But he was mostly like a 20% target route run rate guy. You're talking about substantially less than Xavier Worthy, our thumbnail boy today, had when he was coming out of Texas. So I'm not crazy about Matthew Golden. Pick 100, though. Ahead of Michael Pittman, who I don't like very much this year. I think he's a good click. Let's see. Why are people picking Bijan and Jettas over CMC and Saquon? First of all, CMC is not even close to a top pick. That's crazy to suggest that right now. But I mean, look, he's a first round pick. You got that going for him. Isn't the better offense a better choice? Number one, the Niners offense. I mean, there's nothing saying the Niners offense is going to be as good as it's been in previous years. And in fact, McCaffrey himself last year was really inefficient, was a negative EPA rusher, negative EPA receiver, which might not mean everything to you. But for me, somebody that stares at this stuff at much more than I should every year, it does stand out. It also stands out for McCaffrey last year. And I've talked about it on stream a few times, but I know we're at the time of year we're going to get people coming in. So I'll make my case and you draft the guys wherever you want. McCaffrey last year only had 2.8 red zone opportunities a game. And you'd have Jordan Mason being healthy for part of that. McCaffrey obviously only played about a month and change. So it's not a big enough sample size to feel great about. But a guy getting less red zone work, having a viable backup this year in Garendo. They've added Jordan James as well, which I don't think matters, but does signal at least maybe you don't want to give all the work away to McCaffrey you have in the past. If this team is playing for something real, you don't get there by having your back coming off Achilles issues, 25 touches a game. That's a big part of it for me. Number two is that for Bijan Robinson in particular, we haven't seen a ceiling yet. For Saquon, I would say we probably saw the ceiling last year, even though this year I think he's going to be close. For McCaffrey, you've probably seen the ceiling like 5 years ago when he was on the Panthers. And he's still viable. He's still good. Take him at the end of the round. I think he should go ahead of Ashton Genty. I think he should be closer to Derrick Henry. I think he should be closer to Devon Achane personally. But he's not the same play he was last year. And he got incredibly hurt and sunk a lot of teams. So that's why he's not there. But you can take who you want. I would just recommend if you're drafting 150 teams, you take Christian McCaffrey, where I took Jefferson over and over again. I would say that's probably not a good move. And Minnesota was also a good offense and a good team last year. Obviously, they're losing Sam Darnold, moving to JJ McCarthy. Frankly, McCarthy, I think, grades out to me as a more efficient prospect. Michigan didn't have him do a whole lot, so that could be certainly a part of it. But I'm really encouraged by what I've seen from McCarthy so far. I'm in this offseason, and I'm happy to be on that train. Yeah, I'm low on the field right now in Jefferson. Really want to make sure I'm getting at least 8%. But that said, I don't think there's any reason to be down on McCarthy with him getting the red carpet kind of rolled out for him so far. That said, I hope this guy doesn't take him in front of me. Like, he's not that good of a pick if you don't have Justin Jefferson. Or Addison, or, Hawkinson as well. We got McCarthy back, though, so our Minnesota-Detroit stack is alive. Thank God. So we got Justin Fields, J.J. McCarthy as our 2 QBs. We've got 3 running backs as well, with Bucky Irving, Kenneth Walker, and Caleb Johnson. I think the RB room, to be honest, is a little bit light on projection for how I'm trying to draft teams in 2025, knowing that the board's pretty balanced overall for you to take these different shots. But I think here's a guy that helps me make this up a little bit more, but not Drake May. Tyjae Spears. Love Tyjae Spears right now. Good coach speak for him so far this offseason. For the Titans head coach, Brian Callahan. His dad's Bill Callahan. But for how he's talked about Tyjae Spears, number one, we saw it last year towards the end of the season in particular. It ended up being more of a split backfield. Tyjae Spears also had massive upside until he got concussed towards the end of the season, which sucked. Killed my best ball finals teams, unfortunately. Killed some DFS teams for me that week because I believe he was super chalk as well. But Tyjae Spears was great last year. Now he's coming back to a team that should be running better under Cam Ward. You know, no competition for him to start this year. Cam Ward, to me, graded out, as well as some other prospects. Not quite Jaden Daniels here, but I would say he's pretty close to CJ Stroud with how he played last year in Miami. Now he's number one overall pick. So I like Spears a lot here. Think he helps me for an RB room that I would say is a little bit lighter in projection with Caleb Johnson here. Not that I'm not a fan of Caleb. I just think that he is, frankly, projection-wise, we think Brian Robinson projects better. We think Jalen Warren's going to project pretty much 1-to-1 with Caleb Johnson, at least for a large portion of the year. But this is the team we got. Let's give that team a read right now. Take some chats as well. Appreciate all you guys checking in the chat. We got Justin Fields, Bucky Irving, Kenneth Walker as our start here. Again, would love to get a second RB in that first 4 rounds. I mean, a little bit earlier than Kenneth Walker, I guess would be the better way to put that. I think it's been a comfortable build for me, but we didn't do that here. We got Jefferson and Wilson, like that combo, especially given the fact that we got their QBs with them. 2 guys I feel like I get sniped on a ton. We got a week 17 bring back for the Minnesota stack. We've got Justin Jefferson, brought back by Jameson Williams. Chris Olave, thought was a nice pick at pick 70. Caleb Johnson, happy to get him in that same burst as well. Matthew Golden going at pick 100. Don't see that happen very often. Happy to get that here. And McCarthy and Spears on top as a start so far. Need to get more in at tight end, but on DraftKings, it's a 20-round draft. Very easy to get a bunch of late tight ends. And part of the reason right now, again, when I was looking through my exposures, I'm at about, I think, 30% Juwan Johnson right now on DraftKings. Taking him a lot because he's basically a free tight end who got paid over $10 million by a new regime taking over there. Kellen Moore is the head coach in New Orleans, and a lot of young QBs are going to love checking down to a big-bodied tight end will be the hope there. But on DraftKings, very easy to pull late tight end off. So I'm happy to get my Trey McBrides, happy to get Brock Bowers if he falls somewhere I'm going. You get a lot more Trey McBride because of the slightly cheaper ADP. But I think late tight end, very viable on DraftKings. You could take 4 here in the 20 rounds you have, and it's really, you have a bunch of guys that are free enough late. You could start with Elijah Arroyo if you want to take a young, kind of sexy upside pick. Even though he wasn't a great targeter in Miami last year, he was very efficient. They got over a 0.5 EPA per target, which I had to look up this morning for something I was writing up. But you could add in guys like him, Zach Ertz, still pretty cheap overall. There's a lot of guys you could add on there. I named 2 there. Gesicki, maybe at risk a little bit with Noah Fant visiting the Bengals after he got cut by Seattle, but Gesicki was a guy that spiked pretty meaningfully last year for the Bengals. Really easy to build late tight end this year, so I'm probably doing it too much. Woke up to a slow draft with Fields, queued up at 90, selected him 30 minutes later, 3 minutes after the news came out. Kind of ruined my day. I mean, look, it ends up being fine. You still have the upside there. And, you know, look, for Fields, how the markets work and really knowing best ball markets, much like any other markets out there, they have ebbs and flows. Big part of what best ball is, knowing how people are going to overreact a little bit. You could make the case that I could have let Fields try to go all the way around here because there's a decent shot Fields maybe could have come back to 119 because of people panicking over him having a toe injury. In reality, though, you're better just taking that player if he's important enough to you. Where you got him. Certainly taking him ahead of ADP is probably not the move when he's banged up, but it's not going to kill you. All right, so we have a 2-4-5-0 build. Feels like a good time to take our first tight end here. Isaiah Likely, not a player I'm nuts about, but we do have a little bit of a micro week 17 correlation with Matthew Golden getting him cheap. So I'm going to go Isaiah Likely here at pick 143. And we'll see what Derek Treybig does here. All right. Took Hollywood Brown, sure. Think we need more at RB than we do at receiver at this point. Tight end, though, with Dallas Goedert, another nice little value, though. Certainly doesn't correlate with anything that we have. But you know what? Like Mason Taylor, not really a tight end to anyway. The Jets' assumptive starting tight end coming out of LSU. Spot where he was not a great targeter either, but he got good draft capital, good athletic testing. Think that if I take him, having 2 tight ends in front of him is fine. So we add Isaiah Likely, Dallas Goedert here, now a 2-4-5-2 build, and definitely need some more at RB, but we'll try to work the room later here with some quality, hopefully. If I take in any Mayer in the 20th, I'm not taking Michael Mayer at all now. I think that's a contingent bet on tight end is not really where I want my teams to be, especially when you could still get guys that are, you know, viable, like Tyler Higbee, usually a free round or free pick of the 20th round. And I know people aren't crazy about Tyler Higbee, but it's a guy who came in last year off of injury, immediately commanded a 37.5% target per out run rate, had a 0.4 EPA per target. Now you add in maybe a target with more juice, at least a little bit more than Cooper Kupp had last year, to take some pressure off them. Obviously, you also have the rookie coming in, Terrence Ferguson, guy who also pretty good athletic profile. I think actually portends well to be a good tight end in the future. He's not going to be ready year one. Higbee's a guy they trusted. I think that he's a player to me like I'd rather have over backup value with Michael Mayer. But, Mayer has theoretical outs, I guess. He can get traded to a team that needs tight end. Certainly was a player people thought could go to Miami. I was more of a believer like a Noah Fant type, kind of a catch and run guy being useful there. That ended up not being the case. But we'll see. I guess Noah Fant could still go to Miami now, but I wouldn't expect it with Darren Waller and how it's going. Darren Waller, by the way, another guy people are worried about a little bit because he started the training camp season on the PUP list. Basically with him, the coach, Mike McDaniel, talked about it, I think yesterday, might have been this morning. Time blurs together during training camp because it's a constant influx of news. I do the best to keep up on. Basically, what they had talked about was that Waller coming off of the retirement list wasn't something where they wanted to rush him back in. So as a result, they kind of just put him on the PUP list to start. So people overreact to it because anytime they see NFI list for guys, the non-football injury list, the PUP list, the brain starts to panic. In reality, though, there's a big difference to being on the PUP list before the regular season where you're guaranteed to miss 4 games then. And right now, where they could literally take you off the PUP list at any moment. So for guys like Waller, guys like Chris Godwin, again, another guy people are freaking out about because there was a photo of his ankle looking kind of fat from earlier in the offseason during team uniform day, I believe is what it was. Things like that is just not worth freaking out about. So I tend to just be on the side of absorbing things. My lesson, though, from previous years would be don't absorb the softish tissue injury guys. Jerry Jeudy a couple years ago, not even last year, he had at least some good games with Jameis Winston. A couple years ago, he was on Denver and it was awful and actively killed one of my DraftKings finals teams that year that actually had some juice. Thanks, Jerry Jeudy, in hindsight, now that I'm remembering it. He was a guy that later on in the draft process or the offseason draft process during training camp had a hamstring injury. He and Cooper Kupp both had notable hamstring injuries in August at that point. A soft tissue injury like that will lead to an ADP fall a good amount. I was buying that dip over and over again, ended up over the field on Jerry Jeudy because I'm like, he's too cheap. And like half the tournament's been drafted. How do I not take this guy? Maybe that was a good process. Didn't feel like it in hindsight. It felt like I took a lot more of a player I didn't really like that much because he got hurt. And that's sort of, I think, not great process. But if it's a guy you like, if you like Justin Fields a lot, and now he's cheaper, I think just absorbing Justin Fields is probably a pretty good move. Couple RBs I like here. I'll point out one of them is being Tank Bigsby, guy who was a lot better last year than people give him credit for. Had about a 19% avoided tackle rate, got good red zone work. Certainly, I think this ambiguous Jacksonville backfield, everybody wants Bashal Tutin to win. People are right now drafting Travis Etienne like he's the winner. But to me, I think that there being goal line opportunities for a guy like Tank Bigsby is absolutely going to be the case. So I'm happy to go Tank Bigsby here with my first pick. And next pick, I see one guy I would like if I'm trying to get more at RB. See one guy I would like. 2 guys I would like if I try to get more at receiver. This guy takes Alec Pierce, who is one of the guys I would consider. Alec Pierce, one of the best deep ball receivers in football right now, even though people are certainly sleeping on it. It's getting a little thin at receiver. I would love to take Jerome Ford here. Think he is a nice pick overall, but I don't think I need him desperately as RB6. I do think I need Josh Palmer a little bit more to prop up my projection. So Josh Palmer, wide receiver 6 here. No correlation with anything unless I'm missing something. I guess technically correlated with Dallas Goedert for week 17. That doesn't really matter too much to me. Team so far, we got Justin Fields right at ADP, so no real discount for his injury, but he didn't get sniped for me, so I'm counting that as a win for me. Bucky Irving, Kenneth Walker, our RB duo to start. Love these guys, really do fit criteria for me that 2 rookies I like coming in a lot. Kenneth Walker, I feel like kind of his false started, but he's always gotten good goal line work when he's been healthy. Avoids tackles, stuff that I look for. And Bucky Irving is my prince, who I'm going to be happily 2x the field on this year. Justin Jefferson, we took at the 102. Garrett Wilson here, we got stacked up with Fields. Jameson Williams, our week 17 bring back for Justin Jefferson in the Minnesota stack. Got Isaiah Likely at a little bit of a discount. Same thing for Olave. Caleb Johnson, I guess same thing as well. Matthew Golden, an actual discount, I think 10 picks after ADP. JJ McCarthy stacked up with Minnesota. And of course, our bring back. Jameson Williams. Tyjae Spears making it up at RB. Dallas Goedert making it up at tight end. Bigsby RB. Josh Palmer receiver. I think it's a very me draft. If this draft plays well this year, It'll be because this is a team that I am very comfortable drafting in terms of how I balance draft capital. So you might disagree. There's still a lot of people I would say I consider sharp out there that draft teams more like this guy in the 12 hole here, where he took Neighbors, Brock Bowers, way ahead of ADP, but he's on the turn. So you get some grace there. O'Marion Hampton, Worthy, Hunter, Flowers. I tend to think these teams, though, a little bit tougher to get the RB projection you're looking for. But frankly, I think this guy stuck landing pretty well. He took Tony Pollard on top, Jordan Mason, J.K. Dobbins, all partial role RBs, which is sort of how I'd like to build my portfolio, where you take your bell cow, ideally, if you can get two, great. And then you're adding on a bunch of these kind of half role guys who could steal goal line work, can be functional. Frankly, this guy did pretty well for himself. I took Marshawn Lloyd here, too, another one of my faves. You got in the 12 hole. I like his draft more than I would normally for a 0 RB team. I mean, you got Hampton, so it's not really 0 RB. Hero RB. This guy, frankly, I'll say, this is the one that's the fucked up version of it. Momola here. Took CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Marvin Harrison. Again, very fun to take receiver early. Stacked up with Jalen Hurts that he kept hitting receiver. Took Devontae Smith. Took Myers on top. You've got 5 receivers. You don't need the 6th. Then he takes another 2 QBs on top. You're now punting RB. His first RB is in round 11, and it's Rachaad White. That team is going to be dead in the pod, would be my guess. Even if it advances in the pod, it's going to be dead in the playoffs. And that's emotional growth for me, is not building teams like that. They're the most fun clicks to have, but if Roschon Johnson is your RB3, you are just dead. And I love Roschon. I've got, I think, 19% of him across all the platforms, 21% of DeAndre Swift. Love that bet. Love having 40% of Ben Johnson's RBs for the year. And then watch Kyle Monangai win that backfield despite being a dog shit 7th round pick. Because that's how football works. But point being is you still want to be mindful of the fact that Roschon is not your RB3. He's an RB5. He's a guy that can hammer in some touchdowns. Probably isn't guaranteed a full role. Maybe he steals a role from DeAndre Swift as the year goes on. I think more likely he's going to be your David Montgomery role, and probably going to see Swift in more of the Gibbs role. But for Roschon, you just got to have more RBs in front of him is the main thing. All right. 2562 build here. We do have one player, in fact, my highest exposed receiver here, which if you watch these DraftKings streams will not be a surprise. Not a crazy stand on him, but I have him over 20%. Keenan Allen, latest rumors are coming out that he's trying to figure out teams' receiving rooms in training camp before he makes his decision about who he wants to sign with. Certainly think an injury would also be a thing that would put him over the top and go into certain teams. But I'm happy to get Keenan Allen as a wide receiver 7. Think that at that point, you're basically free rolling him, and hopefully it'll work out. We got Mason Taylor here as well for tight end 3. Jet stack, near and dear to my heart. We got it locked down. So 2573. Still want to add some more logs to the fire at RB, I think. We'll have a few shot guys we could take, though. Losing the Marshawn Lloyds late in the draft does hurt me a little bit on DraftKings with how I do stuff. I'll hop back to the chat in a moment, but give the team a read. We got Justin Fields, Bucky Irving, Kenneth Walker. As our start here, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams. So again, Minnesota-Detroit stack is really the underlying thing here. Isaiah Likely, Chris Olave, Caleb Johnson, Matthew Golden, 2 high draft capital rookies we got in. J.J. McCarthy, Tyjae Spears, Dallas Goedert, Tank Bigsby, Josh Palmer, Keenan Allen, who I will not stop taking until he signs somewhere. And then the CLV will be so high for me and I'll feel great. And Mason Taylor here rounding out the room with 3 picks left to go. Happy with the scene. Don't think it's my perfect draft necessarily. Feel like if I got frankly, for me, a Bijan Bucky start with then Garrett Wilson would have been a little bit nicer. If I'd gotten Jaden Daniels back at pick 47, would have been a little bit nicer. Deebo Samuel's a guy I take a lot of and really try to go on my way to get. Not because of McLaurin holding out, because I think Terry McLaurin scored a lot of very Deebo-esque touchdowns last year. I say that's somebody that watched every Commander snap because I had so much money on Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin last year. And it worked out really well. Did the Jahan Dotson part, the Luke McCaffrey part, the Ben Sinnott part, that didn't work out. But the Jaden Terry McLaurin part, that worked out. So a lesson within that for sure. The point being is that a lot of touchdowns last year for McLaurin were not the 50-yard bomb types that you expect Terry to get based on his career. They were slant routes. They were flanker routes. They were routes that were just not really the kind of ones that he's good at or, historically been good at. Go balls in the end zone, things like that, jump balls rather in the end zone, not stuff that Terry McLaurin is his specialty. I think Deebo's going to easily soak up 10 touchdowns this year, be my guess. And it feels aggressive to say out loud, but whether he has 100-yard days over and over again, we'll see. But for Deebo, I agree that he looked washed last year. The target per out run was down to nothing, though clearly he wasn't the happiest. for the Niners. I think with how he's getting time right now, with McLaurin not reporting to camp, not showing up, it's all good to get that time with Jaden and build his role. And I think really it's going to be a very pronounced 1-2 punch this year with Zach Ertz safely behind that in the pass game. But those three, I think, are really the ones you want for Washington this year. But really, Debo at his price tag, the people have the bad taste in their mouth from taking him a ton last year. And that's something in best ball, where if you go by where there's some blood in the streets, sometimes you end up with a guy who's just dead from how they played last year. Sometimes you end up with a guy who's in a new situation. Team, people out there drafting teams don't think about it enough. But Debo's getting paid good money to possibly be a way out of Terry McLaurin in the future if things went really askew. But we'll see how that goes. I don't think that's the case. Naylor or Felton. I like Felton's talent more. Naylor, though, getting a little bit of athletic team hype and some of the write-ups on there. I think as yesterday there was one talking about how they're calling him Speedy. I guess it might just be his nickname. But also we're talking about it. Basically, he's playing really well so far in camp. Seems like a more adult receiver with how he's running routes and going after the ball. I think they're both probably equally valid bets in the 20th round if you have a Minnesota stack. But I probably won't take either, would be my guess. M the Great wanting me to, I'm not doing you. I don't know. I know you're a member now in the Discord. I think you're a member now in the Discord, M the Great, but I don't know which team is yours. I honestly didn't notice it amidst the other ones. Anyway, I got to make a pick here. You're not distracting me here. All right. One more RB in. Really not great picks left, but Raheem Mostert going to be the lightning to Ashton Genty's thunder, allegedly, according to Pete Carroll. I think he's the kind of back that also does sometimes impede the progress of the rookie we want to see get a ton of touches. So Mostert will be my 6th RB here. Think taking a 7th would still be valid as well. Naylor's up. 4th tight end, Dalton Schultz could also be a consideration. Octavian Wicks, another guy here, I think shouldn't be free. Feel like we just got the 6th RB here. I'll go Wicks. Just don't think we need the 4th tight end yet, if at all. And Dontavian Wicks, a player who hit the hallowed 30% target per route run rate last year. So certainly getting him and Keenan Allen, maybe a little bit overkill. But Keenan Allen, who knows? He could retire, I guess, even though all the reports are saying he's going to sign somewhere. I feel really good about that because I've been taking Keenan Allen every format. There's definitely some people I don't think are the sharpest who've also been doing that too, so that does spook me a little. But Keenan Allen was a guy that people really missed the back half of last year. Where he really became, over the course of the entire year, he was the best targeter around Chicago. It's not fun to hear that because people love DJ Moore. People are going to learn to love Rome Odunze more, but a lot of the guys that like the rookies coming in like Rome Odunze a lot. I like Rome Odunze this year. That said, they both got out-targeted by Keenan Allen, and Keenan Allen spiked like 5 times down the stretch of last year. He's an easy plug and play for a bunch of different teams. He's not a perfect fit for every team. Like people keep saying, Keenan Allen back to the Chargers. He'd be an awful fit there because you have Vlad McConkey who needs to play out the slot. Kind of the same thing that Seattle's going to run into with Cooper Kupp and with JSN is that really neither guy is an outside guy, either in terms of their entire ability or the stage of their career for Cooper Kupp. And I think for how that looks for that, like Keenan Allen can be in a situation like that. And I guess he probably wouldn't get signed. But if he goes to the Niners, if he goes to the Bengals for some reason, I don't know why he would. Like a team like that, if he goes to Falcons somehow, like there's a lot of great outs for Keenan Allen and certainly an injury happening too. We never want to think about that, but we just saw it today with Justin Fields, how scary that can be. There'll be panic, and Keenan Allen, if he's available, will get 10 to 15 mil to come in and be a saving grace for a team that loses somebody. So we'll see what happens to them. But I'm going to keep taking Keenan Allen. Follow your hearts if you want to or not. Thoughts on Lazard? Seems to be he's not a wide receiver too. He's playing behind Josh Reynolds. So would not say that's the move. Also, Lazard, frankly, last year played well, but a lot of it was because of the connection he had with Aaron Rodgers, stuff like the 50-yard plays on an offsides player kind of thing. Like happened a little bit more than you want to see for a player who's a reliable target. I would agree for Lazard. He played better than I would have thought possible for himself. He had a 0.4 EPA per target, crazy efficiency at this stage, but only a 16% target per out run, and that is with his preferred QB there. He also had 1 red zone target a game. I don't think it's not going to be there with Justin Fields, to be my guess. So I'm not crazy about Lazard. If I were to take a player here, it would be Josh Reynolds. I think that he's the better Jets receiver to go to. But my real bet would be that you don't see good enough production from anybody besides the RBs. And I do like Braylon Allen and Breece Hall. I guess at ADP, you could take him. But I think you're not going to see a lot of production besides those guys and your Garrett Wilson. Like Garrett Wilson, I would say If the Jets are competitive this year, Garrett Wilson, Josh Reynolds goes, so he won't be an option for me here. Garrett Wilson's got, like, in my mind, an outside shot of putting up 2,000 receiving yards, which is like a real hot take. And again, I've thrown out a few today. That I'm not like the hot take guy, and that's not my claim. Despite we're in the money hat here, like to actually focus on things that are somewhat projectable because I've been beating it into my brain from years here at Stochastic. But I think for me and how things are looking right now, taking that shot a little bit more, at Garrett Wilson having the big upside is really what I find appealing. Chasing Allen Lazard after he had good production, but still some underlying stats that points to it being a little bit fluky. And now he's lost his best buddy who demanded him to be there. I don't think Lazard's the guy for me. Follow your hearts. 20-round draft, though. And realistically, because it is kind of an ambiguous bet, though, Reynolds has been ahead of Lazard so far. Taking both those guys equally in round 20 would be another way to do that. So you get 5% of Lazard, 5% of Josh Reynolds. That's, I think, totally acceptable to do with that. Tight end, kind of dead here. Cole Kmet still running with the first team ahead of Colston Loveland so far. I think we're going to see a lot of 12 personnel with those guys this year. And I could take a fourth tight end. Feel like it's a luxury I can afford at this point. So tight end 4. I'm going to read you guys my team here. Before I do that, I'm going to give you guys my plug. We'll also do the important Stochastic ad read. If you have any final chats, questions you want to drop in, feel free to leave them in the chat and I will hit them before I hop off the air. But first thing here, before we read the team, make sure to download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app right now to draft your $20 best ball lineup to play for a share of $15 million. And that is a really nice thing you get as well. When you do that, you get a second ticket right away for free. So 2 shots of $15 million. You're putting in your first entries on there. If you're playing MLB DFS, I get it. Go hang out with Greg and Eric today. I believe they're going at 6 o'clock. Let me make sure that's right. 6:15 today. You can do the MLB DFS slate as well. But getting your free entry for best ball, try to get a good amount in would be my hope here because you do have a good shot at overlay. There's been that on DraftKings the last few years. If there is overlay, you get wild card entries. But really the big thing is getting a shot at that share of $15 million, $2 million to first place. Top 10 finishers each win $100K. It's all pretty good stuff for you on DraftKings here. So play on the platform, check it out. And of course, make sure to hit this like button, subscribe as well. I've not done a great job pandering for the plugs today because there's so much football shit to talk about. We got a 2-6-8-4 build, my final build here. We got Justin Fields, Bucky Irving, Kenneth Walker, a receiver, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson. So our 2 stacked up receivers here, which ideally, if you can make your QB stack with these guys, it's where the chalkiest ownership is. We've talked about the fantasy VIP tool where taking in public DraftKings data and allowing you to kind of search combos. For the most part, star receivers get stacked about 40% of the time, 35 to 40, let's say, for most of your top receivers. So you are doing a chalky thing inherently, but think about it the flip side way. You're also getting away from 60% of the field who doesn't stack up those early receivers. And that's something I'd rather play into the QB's upside being tied to the best receivers upside. We also got Jameson Williams, a part of the Minnesota-Detroit Week 17 stack. Isaiah Likely, one of our 4 tight ends here. So again, not a week-to-week play, but certainly a guy that should spike occasionally with maybe more upside if Mark Andrews goes down again. Chris Olave, Caleb Johnson, Matthew Golden, JJ McCarthy here, a Minnesota stack. Thankfully fell back in place a little bit after ADP. Tyjae Spears, Dallas Goedert, Tank Bigsby had to make it up at RB a little bit more because we didn't take the 2 top RBs like I've been taking a lot lately. So I want to make sure I'm getting enough RB projection in. Josh Palmer, Keenan Allen, Mason Taylor, our Jets tight end stacked up. Raheem Mostert, Dontavian Wicks, part of the Green Bay stuff I've been building here. And Cole Kmet is tight end 4 because he's free and available. And I bet you he puts up 1-2 touchdown game this year at the very least. Maybe 2, I don't know, maybe 3, but I would say 1. He'll do it once. One of those games you're like, fucking Cole Kmet. People will be playing Colston Loveland chalk. So Cole Kmet goes off. Let's see. Shout out Spizwolf here. Appreciate the take. Yeah, look, and again, take your Lazard, take your Josh Reynolds, mix them up if you want to. But nothing great in chat. You got the Discord. You click what Discord tells you to. Sure. If you want to click what Discord tells you to, guys, go check my Discord here. If you join my OddsShopper Tails package, you get access right away. And throughout the day, I'm posting updates. Literally, whenever I see anything break, the field stuff is talking to guys in the Discord immediately, trying to get some different news sources in. That's what you get from me in Discord. If you are playing best ball, I'm not culling everything. I'm not taking every highlight clip, though we do have a feed that I pay for to get the tweets in there and stuff like that. But also, for me out there, it's more about what's actually actionable. What are things that matter? Justin Fields' injury, does that give you a buying window? Those are the things that I talk about. Chris Godwin's injury, trying to buy the dip on him or not. Those are things that I try to answer in my Discord. Let's check it out for yourself. Get an OddsShopper Tails package. Do check that out. And of course, make sure to listen to this ad from our pal Greg Ehrenberg about DraftKings Best Ball. And if you guys want to drop any questions in chat, you got a couple minutes to do it here while this plays. So check it out. Wait, hold on. This is not the right one. Here we go.
It's best ball season, and DraftKings is giving all customers a can't-miss offer. Draft one, get one. Enter a lineup in the $15 million best ball contest for just $20, and you'll score another best ball ticket to play free for a share of $15 million, giving you a second chance to win big. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app now to draft your $20 best ball lineup to play for a share of $15 million and get a second ticket to play free for a share of $15 million. That's two chances to win big without ever setting your lineup again. Draft one, get one, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions do apply and void where prohibited. One per customer. Enter the Best Ball $15 million headliner contest by September 4th, 2025 to get one bonus entry. $20 entry fee required. Reward expires in 30 days. See terms at DraftKings.com/NFL-best-ball, sponsored by DraftKings.
The funniest part of that is, like, I'm looking at my phone and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta put my phone down. It's about to end. And then it just keeps going. But anyway, that's an important ad there. Call the numbers if you need to. You guys know the deal at this point. Please hit that like button, subscribe. I didn't ask for them enough throughout the video, but it really is important if you enjoy this content on Stochastic. Of course, a channel known for its DFS acumen, including the 6:15 MLB Live Before Lock show coming up today. I believe with Greg and Eric. I didn't look at the hosts, so I should have done that. I had so much time to do it too. When that ad was running. It's got to be Greg and Eric, right? We know, is there not one today? No. Was it a morning show? I think this is wrong. Anyway, subscribe to the channel. You guys know the deal here. I'll be back again Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. here doing drafts on the home stretch. Go check out DraftKings right now. You guys heard the ad. Go play for your share of $15 million. Get a free entry as well when you put in your first one. And I'll be back with you guys again soon. I'll also be on my channel, which I should have pulled up the link in advance here. I'll be live on my Splash Play channel tomorrow doing drafts across all the big best ball platforms as well. So make sure to check that out. Subscribe to my channel right now because I'm going to link you in the YouTube chat. And if you're watching this video, you're in the YouTube chat. Well, you'd be a fool not to go over to Splash Play, watch me do some drafts tomorrow, and draft along with me as well as I compete for $4.5 million across all the sites. But appreciate all you guys hanging out with me here. Go play on DraftKings right now. Get your entries in. Again, you only got about 40 days and change left to get those drafts in before the season starts. So make them count, guys. But I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Pray for Justin Fields, many little toes. I'll see you guys again soon. Good luck. Bye-bye. Play some MLB. Play some whatever. See ya.